Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Decoding the Unknown. This one, who was the monkey man of Delhi? What was the monkey man of Delhi? I recently went to Delhi a few months ago for a friend's wedding, and here we are. Danny writes it, I read it. Let's get into it. In May 2001, the Delhi police announced a reward for the capture or the termination of a malevolent monkey man miscreant who was waging a campaign of terror against the most impoverished regions of the Indian capital. I'm not sure if the Delhi police would have been into the idea of plastering wanted posters right across the city, but such a poster might have read something like this: Wanted dead or alive, monkey man. Sometimes answer the names of Kalabandar, Black Monkey, or the Face Scratcher. Proper little responsible for hundreds of alleged assaults and at least 2 deaths in the space of just 2 weeks. Wait, is this a man or a monkey? What's going on? Usually targets poor people under the veil of darkness as they sleep on the roofs of their houses. Why would they sleep on the roof of a house? I don't understand. If you have a house, why wouldn't you sleep inside it? It's the very point of having a house, no? Today's sponsor, Holzkern, is a fantastic brand that crafts unique jewelry and fashion pieces for both men and women. They have over 1,000 different products, each one as unique as the materials they're made from. Their latest masterpiece is the Space Warp, which I'm wearing right now, which is a limited edition Star Trek-inspired watch. And regular viewers know that I'm a bit of a Star Trek nerd, so I think this thing is exceptionally cool. It's a special limited edition one, but if you're lucky, there might be some left, so act fast if you want to get your hands on this stunning Space Warp watch, and this isn't some sort of oh yeah, there's not actually a limited supply. There are, I can't remember if it was 500 or something like that of these available, but it is a limited run. But even if they are sold out, fret not, because there are other Holzkern limited editions that come out every now and again, all very special designs, just like this one. Or you could just treat yourself to one of their regular products, which are also fantastic. And they're unique. There's grain with the wood ones and obviously marbling with the stone ones. And what's also amazing about Holzkern is their commitment to sustainability. All of their wooden materials are FSC certified, meaning no deforestation. So when you wear a Holzkern piece, you're not just making a fashion statement, you're also making an eco-friendly choice. Plus, they offer free shipping worldwide from Vienna and 24-month warranty on their products. So don't miss out on this opportunity. Head to holzkern.com/decoding the unknown. Use code decoding for 10% off, or just scan the QR code on the screen now and you'll explore their collection. Again, 10% off using the code decoding. And now back to today's video. Has been known to leap from roof to roof in a single bound. Half man, half monkey, maybe small and hairy with metal claws and glowing red eyes. This is a fiction, but may also be a huge flying beast on roller skates wearing a motorcycle helmet and a utility belt. May possess powers of invisibility and has been known to turn into a small cat. This is the longest wanted poster that no one's stopping to read this. We know this all sounds a bit far-fetched, and to be honest, we don't actually believe that the monkey man of Delhi exists, but we're keen to capture the little bugger anyway, as he's draining all the resources of the emergency services, and it would be lovely to concentrate on something a bit more important, like polishing our batons. Approach with caution. We advise shooting on sight if you catch even the slightest glimpse of the hairy scoundrel. Oh my god. If the police are actually encouraging that, a lot of people are going to get shot because you're like, oh, that man looks a little bit hairy. Pop, pop, bitch. It's also worth noting that water or light might temporarily diminish his potential alien superpowers. A reward of 50,000 rupees for any information leading to his capture, but just his evil monkey head would do, really. I think it's that about all then. Cheerio. Admittedly, that might be a bit long to fit onto a typical wanted poster. Yes, Danny and I, same page. But I don't think the length would have mattered in the grand scheme of things. The monkey man of Delhi was never officially identified or caught, and even today a mystery hangs over the mayhem caused by this murderous creature. But who or what could really have been behind the hundreds of alleged rooftop attacks in Delhi during the month of May 2001, which left some survivors with genuine animal bites? Was this creature, who moved only in shadow, the result of a secret laboratory experiment, a terrorist plot, an alien invasion, or the local population indulging in slightly over-generous servings of rum? Could it have been an animal escaped from the zoo, or just a human criminal who never quite learned how to use a razor? If he was never caught, then why did hundreds of reported sightings fizzle out so quickly towards the end of May? And could the monkey man have unwittingly evolved into something of a superhero and a savior for the poorest residents of Delhi? Not all heroes have the ability to use language to form complex functioning in groups. I'm thinking it's just a combination of many things. Like whenever something's like, oh yeah, it was this, and it was this, and it was that, it's like, no, it's different things. Like one might be an actual monkey going crazy, like someone's escaped monkey or whatever, or coming from the jungle or something. I don't know how that would get into Delhi. Delhi's really big. Delhi's really polluted. That was one of the biggest things I noticed. You're just like, wow. You go outside and you're like, I need a shower. It's like, it's everywhere. My friend's wedding was lovely, though. You should stay inside. Monkey see, monkey do. The very first reported sighting of him occurred on April 5th, 2001 in Purana Vijayanagar in the neighboring city of Ghaziabad, when a citizen by the name of Anil Gopal complained that he had been attacked by a creature which appeared to be half man, half monkey, whilst Anil was sleeping on his terrace in the early hours of the morning. A very similar account of a monkey man attack was reported in the same city just a couple of weeks later, before the creature appeared to pack up his bags and moved to East Delhi, where he seriously upped his game. By May the 14th, at least 50 fresh attacks were reported to Delhi police over the course of just a few nights, and many of the victims required treatment at hospital for bites and scratches and various other injuries. The monkey man only seemed interested in harassing the residents of the most poverty-stricken areas of the Indian capital, where access to fresh water was limited and frequent blackouts were imposed by state-run power companies, plunging millions of people into complete darkness. And it was often during these extended power cuts that the monkey man struck, making it difficult for the victims to accurately identify what exactly was attacking them, as it wasn't like they could just flick on a light switch and stare into the eyes of the simian intruder. The victims would already have been in a pretty vulnerable state, as the monkey man usually targeted the many terrace and rooftop sleepers of Delhi. Oh, okay, so I see. People more sleeping on their roof terraces and stuff, right? For some reason, I just imagine them sleeping on roof tiles, which I guess is a bit silly. And it's maybe really hot. This is poor areas, so they're not likely to have air conditioning, and Delhi's warm. So maybe they're just sleeping outside because it's slightly cooler. Such people weren't sleeping outside for the hell of it. They were, here we are, we're about to get an answer, are we? They were partly trying to get a bit of cool night air during the sweltering summer temperatures where they couldn't just power up a fan, and partly choosing to take advantage of the natural light of the moon rather than lock themselves away in the darkness of their modest dwellings. Okay, so that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. But this meant that the monkey man didn't have to exert too much effort, as he wasn't required to fiddle with locks or climb through windows. He'd just bound from terrace to rooftop, seeking the easy prey who were sleeping outdoors with no immediate protection from a wild beast on the rampage. The number of reported attacks in East Delhi would only soar to new heights over the next few days, but there was a big problem in getting a grip on the physical description. There were obviously bound to be a few discrepancies here and there, considering that none of his victims had the opportunity to take a photograph of the assailant or even just shine a lamp in his face. But even so, you might be forgiven for thinking that not everyone was talking about the same monster. Exactly, it's going to be many different things. It was often described as a 4-foot creature with thick black hair, a dark face, and a prominent snout, but others felt that it looked more like a cat with fierce glowing eyes and long shiny metal claws. Well, metal claws are not a thing because animals don't grow metal. That's just not how it works. I'm just, in my brain, I don't even know why I need to think this, but I'm like, wait, do any animals grow metal? It's like, no, Simon, metal isn't that sort of thing. And it's just because, we have metal inside us, like iron and stuff. I have titanium inside me because I got a bone with a bar. In most cases, it was described as being incredibly agile, with the ability to leap from rooftop to rooftop like some monkey-fied version of Spring-Heeled Jack. Yet others felt convinced that the creature looked more like a muscular 8-foot bear wearing an astronaut's helmet. All right. Well, look, here's the thing. In the wanted poster that Danny made up, it's like, oh yeah, it can transform. It's like a animorph or some shit. It's like, no, it's just two different things, you idiots. And the descriptions just got crazier as the days passed. Some witnesses claimed that the creature resembled a masked monkey superhero with a utility belt housing 3 big buttons, one of which rendered the monkey man invisible. Some said, how much crack have you been smoking? Whoever said that. It's like he's got these 3 magical buttons. Some said that he could fire laser bolts from its eyes. Some said that it was sporting a gleaming halo, while others reckoned that it got around town on either a skateboard or roller skates. So this all narrows down the search quite a bit. We're looking for an invisible 8-foot dwarf monkey space bear angel on a skateboard. Can't be too many of those about, can there? I don't know what the police were pissing about for. Perhaps it might help if we dig a little deeper into some of the individual eyewitness accounts as reported extensively by the Indian media. Well, actually, of course it won't, but let's do it anyway whilst we're here. 35-year-old Arvind Nagar told the press, "A strange growling noise woke me up at 1 a.m. I could make out the hazy outline of a creature sitting on the roof. He leapt at me and ripped me with his steel claws." How do you know they were steel? And they did steel claws, not thing. Industrial worker Prakash Chand recalls, "I was sleeping on our terrace and I woke up when I heard this strange growling sound. It was about 4 or 5 feet tall, very well built, and whacked me hard on my arm." A rare example of the monkey man actually breaking inside a house was reported by Sudha Verma when she was thrown into a panic after hearing her sister-in-law Vimlesh crying out from an upstairs bedroom. The monkey has come! Okay. There was nothing much to be seen by the time Suda had raced upstairs to investigate other than a shadow slipping silently out of view, but Vimlesh claimed that she'd just seen a long monkey arm poking through a wrought iron gate positioned above the bedroom door, which had quickly retracted when her sister-in-law rushed upstairs to help. One anonymous resident confidently told a reporter, "It was a monkey all right, at about 4 foot tall. But as soon as I grabbed it, it turned itself into a cat with tawny, glowing eyes." He wasn't the only one who had a go at tackling the creature. Mohammed Ishtiaq and his wife, Kassar Bano, had attempted to throw a bedsheet over the monkey man, but as Kassar noted, it was just too fast for us. It leapt away into the darkness, screaming, "Hoo hoo hoo!" before we could even catch a glimpse. This is so daft.
They say it's as big as 4 cats. And it's got a retractable leg so as it can leap up at you better.
There'll be people in the guys being like, "Oh no, cryptids are real. This was real. I was there." Like, don't be silly. 35-year-old shopkeeper Anim Keshri had a theory that the midnight prowler he witnessed was probably some kind of robot controlled by remote control, as he could think of no living creature that could bound so easily across the rooftops without even breaking a sweat. Meanwhile, a young housemaid identified in the papers as Kumari was more specific than most in her description. It has 3 buttons on its chest. One makes it turn into a monkey. The second gives it extra strength. The third makes it invisible. He touches a lock and it breaks, but he is afraid of the light.
But you know what, Ted? It lights up at night. And it's got 4 ears. 2 of them are for listening and the other 2 are kind of backup ears. And its claws are as big as cups. And for some reason, it's got a tremendous fear of stamps.
So stupid. That final point is good to know. Actually, the tips were coming in thick and fast for anyone unfortunate enough to be menaced by the monkey man, as he did appear to have just a couple of weaknesses. While Superman can be brought down by kryptonite, Wonder Woman can be brought down by her own lasso of truth, and the Fantastic Four can be brought down by a film studio attempting to make a half-decent movie from the franchise. Hey, it seems that the Monkey Man's own Achilles' heels were light and water. Some witnesses reported that light appeared to temporarily blind the creature, whilst throwing water at its chest proved to be quite effective in short-circuiting the cyborg's motherboard heart. But whilst it might be considered a bit early in the script for mild skepticism, from the writer at least, I imagine Simon has been dumping all over this nonsense for a good 10 minutes. Here we are with 13 minutes in, and 10 minutes of it, I swear it's just been like me shitting on this absolute bollocks. For a good 10 minutes, there are some eyewitness accounts which appear to be even less credible than others. And Daddy's like, so we must embrace them.
Mrs. Doyle was telling me that it's got magnets on its tail. So as if you're made out of metal, it can attach itself to you. And instead of a mouth, it's got 4 arses.
Record Das, how are we going to get more ridiculous than a cyborg astronaut monkey? Like, what do you want, Danny? What are you going for here? Rekha Das, the wife of a rickshaw puller, claimed to the Indian Express that a monkey-faced creature, as small as a cat, flew through a tiny gap in her bedroom wall and bit her forehead and fingers, whilst her unfortunate husband got 2 of his teeth knocked out by a large metallic hand. Whilst Rekha's bite marks and her husband's injuries were confirmed by medical workers, the police were a little dubious over this one, as the layout of the house meant that such a creature could only have gained access to the bedroom by literally flying up from the ground and then squeezing through a tiny gap in the wall before striking the husband with a giant metallic hand. I wonder why the police were skeptical of that one. It sounds more like, oh wait, he was the one who lost teeth. I was like, it sounds like, I thought it was the woman. I'd be like, it sounds like you need to look into another more serious issue there that isn't the giant metallic monkey paw, but domestic abuse, my dudes. Not saying that's what happens. Obviously not. Allegedly. Unless this was indeed the work of a shape-shifting winged cyborg cat monkey, it seems probable that there may have been other explanations for the incident. Meanwhile, the toy maker by the name of Vinod Kumar reported that he had been rudely interrupted while trying to take a slash in the privacy of his own home. A slash is a pee-pee, Americans. I used this in front of an American friend the other day. I was like, dude, I gotta take a slash. Them in the car or something. I was like, dude, and he's like, you what? And I was like, a slash, my dude. I have to have a slash. And he's like, oh, you mean a pee? I was like, yes, I do. Vinod had suffered scratches and bruises when a large helmeted figure with 3-inch iron claws had assaulted him from behind during his vulnerable moments. Oh no. This is the worst. Like, if someone punches you in the back, you're just having a piss, and so I don't know, someone just punches you for whatever reason. I can't imagine the reason, but it's like, hang on, Hang on, I'm not finished. Just 1 second, and then we can fight. While the scratches and bruises were very much genuine, the doctor who examined Vinod Kumar later confirmed that the injuries had been inflicted long before the toy maker had claimed. He's like, I was just attacked by a crazy monkey. And he's like, so why are these wounds all scabbed over already? What's going on? As for the guy who reckoned that the creature turned into a cat when he started to grapple with it, well, call me a doubting Thomas, but I reckon maybe he just saw, I don't know, a cat, maybe a cat. Shock the monkey. Of course, you're always gonna get crackpots taking the piss or at least joining in the fun when a big story like this breaks, and it's easy to pick apart a few isolated reports from people who just wanted to get their names in the papers or in a podcast 20 years later. Here we are. But it's the sheer volume of reports and medical treatments which marks out this case as being particularly unusual. By May 25, 2001, the Delhi police had received almost 400 reports from citizens who claimed to have been attacked by the monkey man, all within the space of less than 2 weeks. At the same time, hospitals and surgeries were buckling under the strain of dealing with an influx of patients suffering from animal bites and various other injuries sustained after an encounter with the creature of the night. And not everyone survived their meeting with the monkey man. According to the Times of India, at least one man was killed around May 12th when an industrial worker jumped off the rooftop of his own house in the suburb of Noida while screaming that the monkey man had come for him. Some press reports claimed that a second man died under very similar circumstances at around the same time, although details are more than a little vague. The most widely reported death is that of a 27-year-old pregnant woman identified in the press as Suman, who attempted to flee a rooftop attack from the monkey man but plunged headlong down a staircase in a bid to escape. That is dude. Suman was rushed to the Guru Tech Badur Hospital in East Delhi, but died after arrival. Suman's landlady claimed that several witnesses had heard the screams and screeches of the monkey man before the victim fell to her death. But while Sub-Inspector Manvendra Singh from the New Ashok police station confirmed the death of a 27-year-old pregnant woman, he emphasized that she had died from a head injury and that no bites or claw marks had been found on her body. Wait, so how do we know that she attempted to escape? How do we know that she didn't just fall down the stairs? It's like, were you escaping from Monkey Man? Or, we can't ask if she's dead, but like, what's more likely, falling down the stairs or falling down the stairs trying to escape a monkey man who has metal claws somehow? Come on. But all of this was naturally causing concern from the Delhi police, who were now under strict orders to shoot first and ask questions later. At one point, 3,000 police officers were placed on night patrol on the streets of East Delhi, often taking positions on rooftops and terraces or shining their torches into every nook and cranny of the district in search of any peculiar activity. The power companies were urged to calm down with the rolling blackouts to help the police in their search and offer more reassurance to the terrified residents, while some politicians were considering enlisting the help of military forces to help combat the menace. That reward of 50,000 rupees was formally... I don't feel like 50,000 rupees is very much. I remember when I went to the cash machine in India, it definitely gave me many, many, many thousands of rupees, and I don't think I took out that much money. Although I did take out enough money that I've now got rupees at home, and I don't know what to do with them. I have so much random foreign currency because I find it really weird to throw away money. But it's like, what am I going to do? Take this to the foreign exchange and get about £4 worth of pounds. But it's just weird to throw away money. It was formally announced by the police for the capture of the monkey man later in the month. Oh, okay, here we go. It's equivalent to just over $1,000. I guess it's not bad money, but it's not exactly great. Are you going to go out there and risk it for $1,000? Risk getting your... I don't know. It's kind of scary. But it was a surprising move, as the official line coming out of the police was that the monkey man didn't actually exist, and that there must be a perfectly rational explanation for all of this, which didn't involve monkey men hybrids on skateboards or wearing astronaut helmets. Still, just to be on the safe side, they also came up with a couple of artist sketches of the creature that didn't exist to assist any potential bounty hunters. I'm hoping that the editor is able to flash up these comical images right now, as if nothing else, it will help persuade me that I didn't just dream them up after eating too much cheese. Yes, please do. The first image is essentially just a crude depiction of a small, hairy monkey with long claws and a funky hairdo, while the second image appears to portray a cartoon biped cat wearing a cool uniform and helmet. This is the police sketch artist's best day on the job ever. It's like, yeah, just use your imagination, mate. Yeah, cats, bipedal. You want to introduce a Tommy gun in its hands? Why not? Yeah, just go for it, mate. To nobody's great surprise, these drawings didn't really provide much help in identifying the suspect, and the reward was never claimed. Everybody's got something to hide, except me and my monkey. Many residents of East Delhi were now afraid to leave their houses after dark. The vast majority were too scared to sleep outside on their roofs or terraces, while some resorted to barricading themselves in their own homes during the height of Monkey Man fever. Several of the braver citizens decided to take matters into their own hands, forming vigilance committees and wandering around the neighborhoods day and night armed with tridents and bamboo poles and axes. Why do you own tridents? Who the fuck owns a trident? Isn't that thing that, who's the sea's use? He's in Little Mermaid, and isn't he Little Mermaid's dad? Is that who he is? Poseidon! Poseidon with the trident! Who the fuck other than Poseidon has a trident? This predictably led to a string of unfortunate consequences. Oh yes, who could have known? One van driver was dragged forcefully out of his vehicle and given a proper pounding after a local mob had concluded that he was the culprit for reasons that weren't entirely clear. I wouldn't have thought that a van would have been the most obvious choice of transport for a half-man, half-monkey. Yet his vehicle was smashed to bits whilst the driver was taken to hospital with multiple fractures. Mobs are crazy, dude. Mob rule, where when someone's like, it's him, and they're like, it's him, and then everyone just goes nuts. It's like humans, we are real pieces of shit sometimes. A 4-foot-tall, wandering mystic by the name of Jameer was also apprehended by angry men with pitchforks, partly on the grounds that he was guilty of publicly performing mystical formulations involving hunks of goat meat, but I suspect largely because he was quite short. The guy was badly beaten up by the mob, who later handed him over to the police, but he was guilty of nothing more than being a bit of a spell-casting fruitcake. On an even more disturbing note, the Hindustan Times reported that a young girl had been attacked in the streets purely because somebody had decided that she looked like she was possessed by the spirit of the Monkey Man. But despite the strong presence of the police and lynch mobs, still the attacks continued through the middle of May. One guy reckons that the monster had threatened to kill him in the Bhojpuri language, whilst another quite despondent victim revealed that the Monkey Man had stolen his new mobile phone. It sounds to me that he got off quite lightly. It wasn't all bad news, though. Well, it was mostly bad news. But on the plus side, Monkey Man attacks aside, the general crime rate in East Delhi dropped dramatically during the month of May. Whereas a total of 50 non-monkey crimes were reported in the district in the first week of May alone, only a further 6 were reported for the rest of the entire month. I like to think this was because the population had collectively made the decision to find strength in unity, putting aside their petty differences and bonding together to fight a new and terrible common foe. I get the feeling Daddy's going to be like, however... Of course it probably wasn't. It's more likely that criminals just found it harder to go about their business, what with everyone on such high alert, thousands of police officers patrolling the area, and thousands of vigilantes roaming the streets in search of short wizards and little girls. Under these intense circumstances, how was an honest burglar meant to make a living? It wouldn't last. And that's largely because by the end of May, the Monkey Man had completely disappeared without a trace. Because he never existed in the first place, Daddy! Well, there were a couple of sightings of a Monkey Man in the Indian city of Kanpur the following year, along with a couple of fresh sightings in New Delhi of something which now apparently resembled a monkey robot with flashing red and blue lights. But nobody appeared to pay much attention to those. Isn't it interesting how that the sightings of him decrease as time goes on and media interest gets lower? I'm sure that's a coincidence. On the whole, a sensational story which had dominated the Indian press for well over 2 weeks, as well as a brief burst of interest overseas, just seemed to evaporate. Reported sightings of the beast quickly dried up, and the number of patients bothering hospitals and surgeries with their complaints of Monkey Man bites dropped sharply to 0. The monster pretty much vanished overnight and was largely forgotten about by the rest of the world, almost as if it had never really existed at all. And it felt like such an unexpectedly sudden departure from a creature that didn't even bother leaving a goodbye note. Maybe one of those groups of vigilantes had finally apprehended the real suspect, but had kept quiet about it. Maybe it had tried to jump a rooftop too far and clumsily fallen to its death, although you'd think the body would be of particular interest to zoologists, and so it would have been found. Or maybe it had just flown back to whatever planet it came from on its intergalactic space hopper.
I have to go now. My planet needs me.
Wow, Poochie came from another planet? I guess.
But those 2 weeks of sheer panic, frenzied news headlines, hundreds of alleged assaults leading to very real wounds, and at least 2 connected deaths were unlikely to be forgotten too quickly by the residents of East Delhi. And yet with so many conflicting accounts of a creature that had the uncanny ability to be in several places at once, and with practically nothing in the way of evidence aside from the wounds of the victims, it's not too surprising that the police never quite managed to identify a suspect despite their best efforts in putting together drawings of a hairy monkey and a cat in uniform. So who, or what exactly, was the real Monkey Man? The missing link. If you'd bothered to ask any of the victims for their opinions on the origins of the creature, many of them would have told you that it was clearly the reincarnation of the ancient Hindu deity Hanuman, who is often depicted as half man, half monkey. In fact, it's reported that several Hanuman temples in Delhi witnessed a huge surge in footfall during that month of May, possibly from visitors who felt the need to pray to the Hindu god of healing and worship and politely request that he refrain from larking about on rooftops and nicking people's mobile phones. But let's park that theory for a while. Or to be more honest, let's just never come back to it. I raised an eyebrow or three when I heard the views of one unnamed senior police officer who was quoted in several different newspapers as saying that the whole drama had been meticulously orchestrated by Pakistan's inter-services intelligence in a bid to monger mischief and drain the resources and energy of the Delhi police, who had been placed on high alert for a couple of weeks as they worked around the clock to catch a naughty monkey. I don't think, these are really different things. I don't think foreign intelligence interferes on such a boring level. It's like they're just terrorizing a poor neighborhood in a part of Delhi for a few weeks. There's bigger fish to fry, my dudes. But it's difficult to see what exactly such a fiendish plot could have achieved in the long term, aside from a big stack of police overtime, and I suspect that the inter-services intelligence have more pressing matters to deal with than mongering monkey mischief in Delhi. Yes, Danny and I, again, same page. One of the more out there theories involves a terrible old American black and white sci-fi movie called Robot Monster from 1953. The 3D film, wow, directed by Phil Tucker, tells the story of an alien cyborg who arrives on Earth on a mission to destroy humanity. On the face of it, the monster, depicted as a big hairy monkey and wearing a diving helmet, barely looks capable of doing anything as sophisticated as opening a packet of cornflakes. It's now widely regarded as one of the worst movies ever made, which of course means that it's also gone on to inspire a devoted cult following. Yeah, if you're going to make a bad movie, you have to make a really bad movie. Don't make a mediocre bad movie. You got to go is it The Room? Oh, what's that one, that movie where they made a movie about the making of the movie? It's not The Room. The Disaster Artist. That's the name of the one. What's the movie? I don't remember. But you got to go really bad, because then you get a cult following. And this in turn apparently encouraged Phil Tucker Jr., the son of the original director, to propose a long-awaited sequel in 2001, which would be filmed in Delhi. So while such a movie was never completed, the idea here is that Phil Tucker Jr. at least started filming Robot Monster 2 in Delhi in 2001, and that all the alleged sightings were actually of the headlining act in full costume. Who was also just going around and biting people and assaulting people and magically flying in through their windows and using his metal hands on people's husbands. Come on. It's an interesting idea, but I never felt entirely convinced that the leading star of a movie would be allowed to run riot around the rooftops of Delhi in the middle of the night. A mocked-up Robot Monster 2 poster had done the rounds online, featuring the words, "New Delhi attacked," coming December 2001. But the original source for all of this appears to be a not entirely serious website called Mr. Blog's Tepid Ride. As far as I can make out, Robot Monster 2 was not only never completed, it never even was proposed in the first place. A shame, as it sounds like it would have been particularly hard to top the original. So now let's turn our attention to slightly more realistic theories. There's often been talk of the Phantom Attacker being either a weird alien hybrid or simply a human wearing a monkey mask. Okay, so these... We turn to more realistic theories, Danny, and you name two. One, which is just insane, alien hybrids, and one, which is pretty fucking likely, human man wearing a monkey mask. But what if this creature, which resembled a monkey, was, and wait for it, just a monkey? I'll admit that I'd be pretty amazed if I popped down to the fudge pantry in my local Cornish village and encountered a small group of mischievous wild monkeys on the way. The only monkeys I've ever seen in real life were either in a zoo or in the raucous crowd of a typical British football stadium. But it's not such a massively unusual sight in many Indian cities, including Delhi. I mean, it's not like you'd typically expect to be jostling for space on the bus with an army of monkeys intent on bagging the best seats. But in a country bursting with literally millions of wild monkeys, it's understandable that some of them mooch into the cities occasionally to have a bit of a laugh and smash some shit up. One particularly ridiculous incident took place in 2000 in the city of Patna when a troop of monkeys appeared to embark on a savage anti-smoking crusade. They were spotted marching around a busy office block in single file with a curious look of determination on their cheeky monkey faces. Workers going in and out of offices were generally ignored by the monkeys, except for the employees who'd just popped out for a crafty cigarette. As soon as anyone dared light up, the monkeys would charge at them, rip the cigarette from their mouth, slap the person in the face, and run off with the entire packet of cigarettes liberated from the employees' jacket pockets. It sounds like they're not anti-smoking. It just sounds like they're addicted to nicotine. Like they nick those cigarettes, they eat them, and they're like, nicotine. One state official glumly told the press, "No one dares carry cigarettes in their pockets, let alone smoke. Everyone is afraid of getting accosted by the monkeys." It might just be that the monkeys were less interested in promoting the harmful effects of tobacco smoking to humans, and more just interested in stealing them to smoke themselves. Yeah, monkeys smoke, right? Like, if there's a lit cigarette, they obviously can't light a cigarette themselves, but like, if they nick a cigarette from someone, they'll smoke that. But the situation only got worse from here, as the monkeys eventually felt brave enough to venture inside the office block, where they were witnessed spilling drinks, sitting on vacant chairs, and casually flipping through office documents. This kind of thing is particularly common in Delhi, where even the Prime Minister's office was once reported to be overrun with wild monkeys on the loose. And some local doctors have claimed that it's not uncommon to see monkeys wandering up and down the corridors of hospitals, poking patients as they lie in their beds and tinkering with blood transfusion drips. Yet the director of the National Zoological Gardens in Delhi was not convinced that monkeys were responsible for the 2001 attacks. He stated, "It cannot be a monkey as suspected because they do not have the height attributed to the attacker by witnesses." The Joint Commissioner of Delhi Police, Suresh Roy, was in agreement that the situation couldn't be pinned on monkeys. He told the press, "We contacted Delhi zoo authorities, and the experts say that no simian would ever attack without provocation." Well, the zoo would say that, wouldn't they? Stupid pro-monkey zoo. Both of these are pretty odd statements to make. While the director of the National Zoological Gardens was claiming that the heights don't match up, that all depends on who exactly you talk to, as the various conflicting eyewitness accounts reckon that the monkey man was anywhere from between 4 to 8 feet tall. And I'm not sure if the Joint Police Commissioner Suresh Roy got through to the right department when he thought he was speaking to experts, but whilst monkey attacks without provocation are relatively rare, they absolutely can happen. In fact, there had already been frequent reports of random monkey attacks in Delhi long before 2001, and it's not inconceivable that a number of the alleged monkey man attacks were indeed down to real monkeys. But the previous random monkey attacks were usually scattered and isolated incidents. It does seem highly improbable that a group of wild monkeys would have sustained a 2-week-long campaign of terror involving hundreds of victims without ever being identified and caught by the thousands of police officers and vigilantes on the scent. Monkey business. So, the next obvious answer is that surely the whole thing was just a hoax on some level. Either the monkey man himself was just some prankster with too much time on his fake hairy hands, or the actual reports to the police were concocted by attention seekers who hadn't witnessed anything disturbing in the slightest. Look, I think some of it was a monkey, like a real escaped monkey, like biting someone or whatever. I think some of it was a prankster. I think some of it is people just making shit up for attention, like the dude who was having a piss. And he's like, "I was attacked by the monkey," and the doctor's like, "Bro, these injuries are like 2 weeks old." And you're like, yeah, about that. It's lots of things mashed together. This is the easiest decoding that I've ever done. I mean, that Danny's done, and I just read. I won't take the credit here. Well, in fact, it can be conclusively confirmed that plenty of people were indeed just acting the clown, whilst the majority of the population were cowering under their bedsheets every night. One guy, identified the police as Dharmender, was arrested after he was caught in the act of burglary whilst wearing a cheap crap monkey mask. But it's not like anyone felt like celebrating over the long-awaited capture of the monkey man. It seemed pretty obvious that the small-time thief was a harmless dimwit who was telling the truth when he claimed to have adopted this cunning disguise to frighten away the accidental witness who might conclude that their lives were in imminent danger from the real monkey man. This itself was a bit of a silly strategy, considering the amount of people who were out on the streets actively hunting for anything vaguely resembling a monkey, but that's how Dharmender rolled. Yeah, we did say he was a little bit dim, didn't we? It's like the police offering a reward and just say, "Yeah, fucking shoot that bastard." And he's like, "You know what's a good idea? I'm going to dress up as that." Crazy. Several other people were caught messing around in the early hours of the morning, making silly monkey noises and screams, whilst even a doctor landed himself in hot water after playing a prank on his neighbours. He thought it would be fun to cover an inflated surgical glove in brown hair dye and leave it for his neighbours to find, presumably to make them think that they'd stumbled across the dismembered paw of the monkey man. I wouldn't have thought that a doctor would even have time to pull such a stunt, considering that most local people who worked in the medical industry were so overstretched during this period, but he probably wished that he hadn't bothered, as his little gag led to him getting arrested very shortly afterwards. It's quite a good joke at that. Like, this is fine. On top of all this, it turns out that all those hundreds of calls to the police may not have been entirely genuine either. What? Really? No, not about the monkey man. Why would anyone lie about that? According to the Delhi police, the vast majority of the 400 reported calls they received were identified as pranks. But that's not to say that everyone who contacted the police or wandered into hospital or surgery was just monkeying around. Many of those reported injuries were very real. I mean, we shouldn't overlook the deaths either, but it's important to bear in mind that nobody was ever mauled to death by long iron claws. The 2 or 3 fatalities connected with the monkey man involved residents of a district very much paralyzed with fear, falling to their deaths under the belief that the beast had come for them. Each case was tragic, including, of course, the death of the 27-year-old pregnant woman, but there was no evidence found of any genuine attack from a creature. The injuries and scratch marks and bites inflicted on the patients seeking medical treatment at the time are an entirely different kettle of insects, though. Some of the earliest press reports appeared to confirm that these injuries really were inflicted by something that wasn't quite human. Joint Commissioner of Police Suresh Roy told Reuters news agency, "We have consulted doctors about the bites, and they said they were by some animal. All the information we have is pointing towards an animal, but we checked with the local zoo, and they said no animal had escaped from there." But a deeper dive into the medical statistics paints a very different picture. For starters, respected rationalist Sanal Edamaruku of the Indian Rationalists Association took it upon himself to lead a team of researchers into the panicked region on a mission to track down alleged victims who claim to have suffered physical wounds at the hands or paws of the monster. The team spoke to around 40 different victims, all of whom claimed to have been scratched or bitten by the monkey man, but an examination of the wounds revealed nothing more than minor scratches or cuts or rashes. It's possible that some of them may indeed have been scratched or bitten by a stray cat or a rogue rodent, but Sanal Edmaruku concluded that most of the wounds were either knowingly or unknowingly self-inflicted. In other words, these people had purposefully scratched themselves a little bit to give the false impression that they had been attacked, or if they'd taken a bit of a stumble in the middle of the night during one of the frequent blackouts, they'd later blamed it on the monkey man. A slightly more official investigation was undertaken a couple of years later by the Indian Journal of Medical Science when the publication was granted access to police records and local hospital records taken at the time of the attacks. The journal confirmed that the police had received a grand total of 397 reports of monkey man attacks between the 10th of May and the 25th of May, but only 52 patients ever required medical attention. The majority of those patients were young males living in the very poorest sections of East Delhi. But a close examination of their injuries didn't really yield anything that smelled like monkey. If a patient had really been bitten or clawed by a wild animal, the victim would likely have been left with some pretty nasty gashes on their inner forearms, but the overwhelming majority of patients were showing off very minor abrasions and lacerations on their outer forearms, which could have been made with any blunt or pointed object. So, it would appear that just about everyone who received medical attention was either deliberately trying to hoodwink the medical teams with minor accidents or self-inflicted wounds, or they had somehow managed to convince themselves that an accidental injury had really been the result of a brutal attack from a midnight monkey monster. Nah, these people are just like attention seekers. It's just people who want attention. That's all this is. That's all this is. And maybe a monkey. And that last point is important, as we now address what has come to be the most widely accepted answer to all of this, even if I'm not wholly convinced of it myself. The Monkey Man of Delhi was simply one of the biggest cases of mass hysteria in modern times. Again, yeah, I think a large part of this is hysteria, but also there's something that stems that causes it in the beginning. Like whether that's a genuine monkey attack or a genuine attack by a person wearing a monkey mask, something like that. I think it's a combination of all of these things. The police appeared to be of the opinion that much of it was down to poor, uneducated, superstitious, illiterate, and downright stupid people letting their imaginations run riot. That sounds like a pretty harsh assessment, but there may at least be some truth in how the monkey man myth only appeared to thrive under very specific socioeconomic conditions. The beast wasn't coming after wealthy people fast asleep in their four-poster beds. Just about all of the attacks were based in the very poorest areas, suffering from lack of access to water in the sweltering heat with regular blackouts and overcrowding. These people were hot, bothered, thirsty, often living in the dark, so perhaps not in the best frame of mind for rational thinking. Many of them may well have been clinging on to superstitious beliefs, and we know for certain that most of them would have been deeply religious and really did believe that the attacks may have been the work of the ancient Hindu deity Hanuman. The Indian press wasn't exactly helping matters with their daily front page reports, which tended to focus squarely on the most ridiculous aspects of the story. The content of the reports featured little sensible analysis on how the attacker may have just been a human criminal or a lost monkey, or how he may not have existed at all. Instead, they ran with The stories of how the 8-foot creature on a skateboard could shoot laser bolts from his eyes, turn himself invisible, and metamorphose into a cat, and how he had been directly responsible for at least 2 deaths. The fresh sightings of the beast became ever more frequent as the news reports became ever more wackier, stoking genuine fear across the whole population who were absorbing all of this mad material. The Delhi police could also initially have handled the situation better and worked harder on calming down the terrified residents. Whilst they officially declared that they did not believe the suspect was an alien-monkey hybrid, they were also telling the press that some of the victims had clearly been attacked by an animal, whilst putting up a reward for the capture of a creature that resembled either a monkey or a catman. Yeah, why did they do this? It's kind of weird that the police would put this out there. You're just going to make the situation worse. People are already afraid for no reason. And as the thousands of police officers scouted the streets at night in search of an 8-foot monkey or an invisible cat, it seems that the fictional beast became responsible for everything in the eyes of the panicked population. If an intruder broke into your home, it was the monkey man. If you tripped over and fell in your home, you'd been attacked by the monkey man. Every slightly unusual noise in the distance, that was the howl of the monkey man. The monkey man was everywhere, even though he was nowhere. And so the conclusion reached by most is that the monkey man phenomenon was nothing more than a collective delusion in a poverty-stricken region living in fear of religion and superstition, which was fueled by sensationalist press coverage and insensitive handling by the police. I'm sure there's some truth to that, but I don't think it tells the whole story. I find it unlikely that the saga just materialized out of nowhere based on absolutely nothing at all. Some of the earliest alleged attacks may well have been from real monkeys, whilst others may have been from human criminal intruders, and somehow these separate incidents conflated to form the myth of the monkey man. So Danny and I, it's like this is it. It's none of the above. It's more like all of the above, except for the weird alien shit. We've already established that the majority of later reports were simply hoax calls from people pissing about. These pranksters certainly weren't buying into the collective delusion or praying for an end to the vengeance of a half-man, half-monkey deity. They were just having a bit of a chuckle at the expense of the police. And whilst many victims may indeed have convinced themselves that a perfectly innocent injury had been inflicted by the monkey man, I'm sure there were others who just wanted to feel involved in the story and were knowingly blaming previous minor injuries on the claws of the beast. Any domestic dispute or shaving cart or accident in the kitchen could now arouse attention from neighbors who were led to believe that you'd seen the monster close up and survived to tell the tale. But I also reckon that some people were playing a far shrewder game, which yielded some quite impressive results. Okay, what's this, Danny? There were people being deprived of access to fresh water, whilst the frequent blackouts were depriving them of light. And what were the 2 supposed weaknesses of the monkey man? Well, blow me down with a feather. They just happened to be water and light. Wait, is this just a way for people to get more water and light? Oh, that's so depressing. During the peak of the drama, the power stations have been encouraged to keep their electric running, whilst more efforts were made to distribute fresh water to the locals, and a bigger police presence on the streets helped everyone feel a lot safer as the general crime rates plummeted. I'm not sure we can really call the fictional hybrid a superhero, bearing in mind that at least 2 people died whilst attempting to escape his clutches, but I'll say one thing about the monkey man. He certainly helped improve social services, cut down on crime, and keep the lights on, even if only for a limited time. And this may have been down to the residents who knew exactly what they were doing when they decided to make those telephone calls to the police. Monkey gone to heaven. The departure of Monkey Man from Delhi may have seemed remarkably sudden for a case largely dismissed as collective delusion. It's as if one day everyone was suffering from mass hysteria and the following day, everybody was cured. The police may have actually had a part in his somewhat abrupt disappearance as they finally managed to get a better grip on the situation. They were now getting more than a little pissed off with all the prank calls and began making it clear that anyone caught providing them with misleading information would be instantly thrown in the slammer for their trouble. At around the same time, the Indian press finally began to lose interest in the story, and these 2 events appeared to lead to an immediate full stop to the saga, even if there was no real conclusion as such. The pranksters making their calls didn't fancy the idea of getting locked up for the punchline, whilst the wave of terror that struck East Delhi seemed to immediately subside when everyone stopped reading about it in the newspapers. There we go. The press and the police may have played instrumental parts in fanning the flames of the myth, but to be fair, they also played instrumental parts in swiftly destroying the myth that the press, in particular, had helped to create. The monkey man may have been born from a melting pot of imagination, fear, hysteria, tomfoolery, isolated genuine attacks, and just a dollop of cunning strategy, but he died from an overnight loss of attention. We may never see his like again. But considering what a terrific job he made briefly improving the lives of the poorest in the region, albeit while still remembering the people who lost their lives fleeing in terror, maybe it's time for Delhi to consider embracing a monkey man comeback. Look out for Monkey Man, coming soon to a rooftop near you. And this time, her 2 main weaknesses are money and basic sanitation. Solid ending, Danny. And that's where we end today's episode. Easy decoding today. See you next time. Just before we end today's video, before you go, if you love that Star Trek-inspired space warp watch from Holscan, don't forget to check out the link in the description below or the pinned comments. Use my code DECODING to get 10% off all of their amazing products, and I'll see you next time.